Nebraska's largest public school system is preparing for a new era. Superintendent Dr. Cheryl Logan is moving on, and the search for her permanent replacement will take center stage. And this time of year, books and budgets are approved, and some changes are made that might be off the radar for parents. Brett Weber was at tonight's OPS meeting and has an update.
Changes to the OPS Student Code of Conduct for the coming year had already been discussed. Tonight it was just a matter of saying yes or no, and it was thumbs up. The changes? Well, some parents and students may want to look at the subtleties before next school year. With some urging from student groups, the district's dress code has changed in the annual update. Now there's more clarity. Words or images that promote alcohol, drugs, or weapons, insult or demean others, or disrupt the school environment are not acceptable. More clarity in what you can have your backpacks, too. Items that have no school-related purpose or create a disruption are no-nos. Student and Community Services Executive Director Dr. Ann McFarland said both students and teachers at the middle and high school levels need to understand the rules.
We just need to do a great job of really communicating with all of our stakeholders about the integrity of the learning environment, and that we are not singling out a student, whether it's a male or a female.
Updating emergency preparedness, there will be some additional drills for students and a policy name change. Overall guidelines are now called the OPS District Crisis Immediate Response Plan. No school board meeting would be complete without students. Reps of the first classes at New Buena Vista High shared how the OPS College and Career Academies are opening their minds to future possibilities.
So far, it helped me grow in a good way, because at first I didn't really know what to do, but with the program helping, I'm now set on what to do and how to go from there.
I know a lot of my classmates, they take IT, and they're really into their computer stuff, and it's cool to just kind of watch them do what they like and what they enjoy, and there's a little bit of everything for whoever you want at Buena Vista.
On your side in Omaha, Brent Weber, 6 News.
We do have a link to the revisions and additions to the OPS Student Code of Conduct, as well as other approved policy measures in Brent's story on our website at WOWT.com.